Welcome back to the UN Bring Your Fire live dialogues. Sia, I think you can agree we've had a successful 3 dialogues in the past couple of days. The first, which was addressing the role of education in fostering climate action, and the second being gender-based violence. And of course, after lunch, we did speak about youth employability and food security. Today, we are, of course, moving on to the theme of HIV and AIDS, key population inclusion and human trafficking, which will of course take place from 11:30 all the way to 12:30. All I can say is I'm ready to bring my fire and to hear what the list of panelists are going to say today in regards to this specific topic. We do have our live audience, which is streaming from different streaming platforms, and of course Eswatini TV, and our live audience right here at the House on Fire. This one, Sia, is brought to you by the UN AIDS, UNDP, and of course IOM. I am of course Tabelo Dlamini, better known as Belonkosi, and I am still with
Siyabonga Dlamini, also known as the silent writer. Indeed, Tabelo, we have brought our fire, and it actually goes beyond our table all the way to our panelists, who will be shedding light on UN, or rather, not UN, sorry, UN is definitely bringing their fire all day, every day. But this is the UN Bring Your Fire live dialogue, and we are unpacking SDG 3, which looks at HIV and AIDS, as well as key population inclusion and human trafficking. And as you have mentioned, we are bringing our fire to inspire change amongst our youth people, amongst capacity building programs, and also laying a beautiful foundation for the Summit of the Future, which will be held in September 2024, and Eswatini indeed is bringing their fire as well.
And I think, Sia, we should remember that the purpose of this gathering is, of course, a call to action, and this is how the United Nations is responding to that call to action, which is, of course, the MTN Bushfire Festival's mandate. But I think that we do have a list of panelists today who are professional and well qualified to speak on the given topics, so it is only right to hand it over to them and hear what they have to say today and how they are bringing their fire. Moderator, please take it over.
Of course, and how we are bringing our fire to the bushfire. Thank you so much, Tabelo, and thank you so much, Sia, our beautiful hosts, for actually ushering us into our dialogue for today, where we are tackling dual pandemics and dual issues, being HIV and AIDS, and key populations in the midst now of human trafficking in the Kingdom of Eswatini. My name is Sipesi Hlengwanyana, and I am your moderator for today's session. And we say hello to all our virtual audiences joining us from different platforms from in and outside the country. And of course, I'm not alone. I've got a list of panelists who are professionals in their different fields who are going to be engaging us today on the topics HIV and AIDS, key populations, as well as human trafficking. And of course, we have artists, who are going to be representing, the local arts sector, and the vulnerabilities that they face, in terms of these dual pandemics. We also have academia in terms of a university student who is going to share with us, university life and what it is like being a university student. And, with all of these, pandemics out there, how does it impact, on the lives of university students? But maybe just to give a bit of context, in the country here, we have done so well as the Kingdom of Eswatini in terms of tackling the issue of HIV. You will remember that in 2020, we were celebrated the world over by the UNAIDS, for actually attaining the 395s, which means that 95% of Emaswati have tested and they know their HIV status. Of those 95% who know their HIV status, they are on treatment, and 95% of those who are on treatment are actually virally suppressed. Now, having done so well in the response, there are pockets of challenges which we need, to address, and that involves key population groups, as well as the issue of human trafficking and, the promise for better opportunities. What are the challenges, when that, happens in that space? And of course, I did say that our group of panelists will actually help us, to unpack all of those issues. And our beautiful audience will have the chance to actually delve deep into the issues as well and ask, and hear a little from them on the subject. Otherwise, I'll give at this moment our panelists to actually introduce themselves to you beautiful virtual viewers. I will start maybe on my right, a local artist and songstress. Hello, Velemseni.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Velemseni Nzimanze, and in this capacity I'm an artist and also a music lecturer.
Music lecturer, imparting the skill to others to follow. That's beautiful. From the Prime Minister's office?
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Spesihle. Good day to you all. My name is Sabelo Mkachwa. I come from the Prevention of People Trafficking and People Smuggling Secretariat based at the Prime Minister's office. I'm glad to be here today, and I trust we'll have a good session today.
Pleasure to have you, sir. Msizi, key populations?
Good morning, Spesihle, and to our viewers at home. I'm Msizi Mkabela. I'm with Helpless for Men, a civil society organization working with HIV. In this capacity, I am the Programs and Operations Manager, Acting Executive Director.
Get it out there, Programs and Operations Manager. UNESCO?
Good day to everyone and our viewers at home. My name is Andiswa Shongwe, and I am a peer counselor at the University of Eswatini Duyanga campus.
Awesome, nice. So there you have it, your panelists here coming to give us, a bit about their fields of expertise. Maybe let us start on human trafficking. To say, give us the situation on the ground. What are the different forms of trafficking that are currently available in the country? What are people promised, that makes them vulnerable to human trafficking?
Thank you, Spesihle, for your question. But if possible, could I please start off by first explaining what human trafficking is? And essentially, human trafficking is the recruitment, the transportation, the exploitation of an individual through the use of fraud, coercion, deception, abduction, or even the use of power to do the recruitment, transportation, and exploitation. By exploitation, that's where your question comes in, especially, whereby there are various forms of exploitation. For instance, we have labor exploitation, whereby you get people who do domestic servitude and basically labor exploitation.
Or promise for jobs.
Promise for jobs, yes. And then we have sexual exploitation, whereby people, the victims end up in the field of sex work and what have you. And we also do have human trafficking for essentially the stealing of body organs. So there's various types of exploitation. So essentially, human trafficking is that the recruitment, transportation, and exploitation through the various forms that I have mentioned.
Okay. All right, maybe, yeah, I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you, Mnguni. Let's hear from the artists, from the arts sector. How vile is exploitation, especially, in the arts sector? The issues of HIV, and, the exposure. I know in the arts there's the term, exposure. We want to expose you, we want to give you exposure. So come and perform, or I'm going to be your manager. How does that actually affect artists in terms of HIV, and human trafficking?
Thank you, Spesihle. I think in my industry, it's very prevalent there's this culture of working for exposure, but it's disguised exploitation sometimes. I think that comes from primarily the state of the economy, specifically in the arts. It's very tough to have a sustainable career in the kingdom currently for artists. And so sometimes we tend to lean towards, desperate measures to make money, to make ends meet. And you can find yourselves in dangerous situations, and drug use in the industry as well is very prevalent. that could lead to situations where you find yourself maybe with like sexual violence or forced prostitution or abuse of power. Back to the point you initially stated.
Yeah.
So it's
sexual favors in return for, exposure. I will make your brand strong, I will make you known, to the masses. Come with me to a foreign land because opportunities are great there, right?
Kidnappings, that could lead to kidnappings.
Of course,
as well. Yes,
yeah.
definitely.
Thank you very much, Williams. And I'll come back to you, for other issues on that. Key population groups. I know that key population groups are lagging behind. They're some of the sub-population groups, actually, when we speak of issues of HIV. The promise for better opportunities, human trafficking. How far does that go, and what is the situation like for key populations in the country?
Yeah, thank you, Spesihle. It's undeniable that key population have been left behind in almost a lot of the development issues. Yes, the country has done very well in terms of attaining the 95 and pushing the ending AIDS agenda. However, we still see a lot of work that needs to be done to bring key population at par. We are looking at the HIV prevalence of the country being at 24.8%. The total, which is slightly higher for women, being at 30.4. But now when you're looking at key population, we have a prevalence, according to the IPPS study, that is at 58.8%, which is quite a hike. And then for men, it's 18 general men or cisgender men. We have them at 18.7%, of which their counterparts, which are men who have sex with men, we have them at 21%. Maybe just to unpack key population a bit, by the WHO definition, we are looking at population groups within our society that are more vulnerable to acquiring HIV and AIDS and that have been disadvantaged somehow. So we are looking at female sex workers and sex workers. We are also looking at men who have sex with men, transgender women. We also have people who inject recreational drugs. So these population groups in country are being prioritized in terms of HIV prevention. Looking at the status of, according to the UN report here, the global UN AIDS report, we have men who have sex with men 25 times more at risk of acquiring HIV than general men. For female sex workers, it's 26. For transgender, it's 31. And for people who inject drugs, it's 41. So it's quite a hike.
It's quite high. I know that there's also stigma related to that, the issue of human rights, in the country. Are they even legally recognized, in the country? We know that female sex workers, for instance, will be collected by the police at night because they are loitering, that term, yeah, for loitering. How have you worked around those issues, for key populations in order to create an enabling environment for them to coexist with others in the country?
Yeah, it's quite a tricky situation to address that and to advance the movement of creating an enabling environment. With our policy environment in country, there is no ban on key population or LGBTIQ. So we have these laws that are just being used for personalized prejudice to try and frustrate female sex workers. If we refer to the Loitering Act, it's just an act that is meant to stop probably people from being out in the evening. So it's being used now to frustrate or arrest sex workers. And you would be surprised that evidence for them would be being found in possession of a condom, which is something that we are constantly promoting, that everyone should be carrying a condom to protect themselves. Then we have the Sodomy Act. The Sodomy Act basically is much more contextualized now within the SODV Act. It's basically rape, unconsented sex. So no one goes in bedrooms or in private settings to see what people are doing. So it's difficult to address those issues. Then we have the marriage bill. It also does not necessarily ban same-sex relations, but it just recognizes marriages as between a man and a woman. So we know our gender context is quite elaborate, and we are constantly doing education and capacity and sensitization to the community to understand the different genders that we have.
Wow, wow. Powerful information there, being collected for actually carrying a condom when we are saying that, a condom is still part, of the HIV prevention modalities. That is very insightful information. Now let's go to varsity life. When you leave home and you're getting into varsity, you think, oh, now it's going to be a free for all. I'm finally free. But there are other challenges, that varsity students go through. There's the issue of the allowance. It goes out sometimes, it runs out. How is varsity life and, how does it impact the issues of, exposure to HIV, exposure to human trafficking, and, discovering yourself now, also in terms of, key populations. Tell us a little bit.
Okay, thank you so much. So when it comes to varsity life, I don't want to lie, it's not as simple as we picture it, because you have to deal with peer pressure, you have to deal with the issue of allowances. Sometimes half of the month will go by with you not knowing what to eat, and ushayela ekhaya go out because bakubekele ukhashana nje vele nabo, and sometimes they don't even have the plan yokuthi batawenda njani. Then when it comes to the issue of allowances, it then leads to intergenerational and transactional relationships, which are then sometimes the driving factor high HIV cases, and the issue of substance abuse. We're far away from home, so they don't get to see what we do at varsity. So we're basically free to do whatever, even things that are not quite what we do at home. So it's quite a difficult journey, but it's manageable.
It's manageable, you try. You live within the means. Yeah, there's a lot of exploitation, especially for varsity students when we speak of issues of intergenerational sex, issues of transactional sex, Mr. Mkajwa. Let's come to you, Mnguni. Varsity students are actually speaking about a difficult life at varsity. They are free from, the laws from parents at home, but now they are also exposed to a lot of things. Do we see a lot of varsity students being, trafficked for whatever reasons?
Thank you. Thank you for your question, Spesihle. Interesting aspect from our students over here. To be honest with you, human trafficking involves absolutely every sector in society. We have had a case, for instance, whereby this was a person who was studying, that completed their first degree, but the coercion that I was speaking about was used, and the cherry that was dangled was to acquire a master's degree elsewhere. And it ended up in a human trafficking case. So I'm trying to answer your question and say, it's not just students, every single sector of society can be affected. I could be affected as well while I'm still employed and be coerced or lied to about a job. An unemployed person, a student, absolutely everybody is susceptible to being a victim of human trafficking.
Because I might not probably get an opportunity to come back to you, let us speak about the policy framework in the country. What is it like when we speak, human trafficking and actually preventing this act, and actually also maybe, advocacy efforts now to try to reach to the general population and especially the most vulnerable groups?
Okay, thanks once again, Spesihle. There's quite an extensive institutional framework being set up by the country, which has been set up by the Kingdom of Eswatini. I'll start off by explaining where the whole issue of human trafficking started off in Eswatini. I'll be brief. It essentially started off in the year 2000. The Kingdom signed a convention, the Transnational Organized Crime Convention in Palermo, Italy. And then from there, the convention stipulated that we need to have laws and need to localize them and make them relevant to us. And we did that as Eswatini. We have the People Trafficking Prohibition Act of 2009. And then in 2010, the Secretariat was started at the Prime Minister's office. And then from there, we've come up with an interagency task force, because no one ministry can fight human trafficking. It involves various ministries, for instance, the police, home affairs, foreign affairs, and what have you, and even development partners are part of the task force. And they work on the ground on fighting issues of human trafficking. And then from there, we have a shelter now as a country where we keep victims of human trafficking. Not to say that that is the only shelter, because we have a multi-sectoral approach to fighting human trafficking. Other sectors assist us. For instance, I'll name the Deputy Prime Minister's office often assists us with shelter, because some shelters are specific to the victim. And from there, we have, I mentioned the shelter. We have guidelines, for instance, victim identification guidelines, which we distribute to frontline workers, be it your customs officials, immigration officials, the police. So, for instance, if the police are having a roadblock and they suspect that might be a case of human trafficking, it's like a mini Bible that can quickly check what to look for to see if this is a victim of human trafficking. That is what the victim identification guidelines are for. And we have shelter guidelines. For instance, when the victim is in the shelter, there are certain ways which they should be treated and so on, because you need to protect them from perpetrators or people that might want to access them, while they assist, for instance, the Ministry of Justice in prosecuting that case. So in a nutshell is that we had the convention, we have the legislation which stipulates the interagency task force. From there, we have the secretariat, we have victim identification guidelines, we have shelter guidelines, and which are essentially our standard operating procedures.
Okay, I like that. I like that we actually have guidelines in the country to guard against that. And, you know, I like the part where you also engage with your stakeholders, you know, who come into, you know, interaction with, you know, with those survivors. We don't call them victims anymore, survivors, you know, in that space. I'll come back to you. If I still have time, I want you to sort of give me insight on the difference between, because there's migration where people, you know, travel freely, you know, to look for better opportunities, the difference between migration and human trafficking. I'll come back to you on that. But Willemsen, we might not get an opportunity again, girl. I just want you to speak to artists now, you know, about your thoughts on how they can actually prevent, you know, the exploitation that you guys currently face in the name of being promoted or in the name of, you know, being made great, you know, and, you know, what the challenges are out there about HIV, you know, the challenges also on human trafficking. What can you say to artists, especially young and upcoming, or those that do not know about the industry? Yeah.
Thank you. I think if I were to say something to artists, especially the younger ones, is that it's critical to build a strong community in the industry, so that you always have people you can reference with, people you can check, you know, there's this new bassist and we're gonna tour together. Is he right? Is he, you know what I mean?
Background check.
Background check. So having a strong community minimizes the chance that you'll get exposed to exploiters and scammers and so on and so forth. Yeah. And that will minimize, again, the exposure to being at risk, to being trafficked or kidnapped or scammed, and all those other health risks as well.
Yeah, learn from the best and learn from those who have traveled, you know, the road. Okay.
Absolutely.
I like that. I like that, Willemseni. Perhaps let us speak, Msizi. I know that you spoke passionately about, you know, the issue of, you know, policy framework in the country, you know, that probably lets down, in a way, you know, key population groups. That's the issue of stigma as well, when we speak to HIV service access in the country, in health facilities. Let's talk a little about that.
Thank you again, Spesile. Yes, Eswatini has quite a comprehensive and elaborate policy framework. However, our policy is sort of generic. It's sort of inclusive. For us to be able to equalize now and push key population agenda, we need to beef our policy environment, policy framework a little bit, so that it's deliberate and it addresses issues of key and vulnerable population directly. We are talking about policies that would really be fighting against stigma and discrimination, policies that would be directly addressing investment and improvement in biomedical HIV prevention interventions, where we are able now to say we are looking at the direct needs of the community, what the community really needs, interventions that address, for instance, your gender-affirming healthcare. We know that gender-affirming healthcare and HIV prevention is intertwined for transgender. If we want to curb HIV issues or new infections amongst transgender, we need to integrate gender-affirming healthcare. And also for people who inject drugs, we need to provide your gender-affirming, your harm reduction services, such as the needly exchange program, access to abscess prevention commodities, and also the introduction of opioid substitution therapy. So these are things that could really be easily addressed by this policy framework that we're trying to advocate for. And also, we want the policy framework to be direct and specific to establishing interventions that are directly or targeted to these communities, interventions that are led by the communities, so that we are able to address the problem from the root and be more participatory as we are doing that.
Yeah. As you're speaking about, community-led interventions, I'm starting to think about, issues of, what are communities like? What is it like in a day in the life of a key population, person in the community? What is it like? What are the experiences that you're getting?
Yeah, there's a lot of stigma and discrimination from the community. There's poor service uptake, health services, also lack of, should I say, marginalized or protection services, and also legal representation by virtue of their gender identification and expression. So we are looking at sex workers and or members of the key population not accessing clinical services as much as they should. We have key population that have cases within the legal system that are dragging and are lacking support. We have cases that are not being reported by virtue of them fearing the response and the reception that they'll be getting within the police force. But already there are efforts that the country is doing through the support from PEPFAR and the UN family. We have programs where we are working with the Ministry of Health to train and sensitize healthcare workers in every facilities. We are going as far as working with completing tertiary students, nursing or health science students, to be aware of the issues that key population go through, so that they can provide comprehensive and tailored services within the facilities. We also have what we call community drop-in centers, as we are working towards this integration program where we're training the mainstream facilities. We have sites where we are now providing tailored services for our key population, where we deal with direct issues without stigma, without discrimination, without these questions that usually drive our key population out of the mainstream facilities.
I like that a lot. Thank you so much, Msizi. Let us speak about Varsity Life, now, Andiswa, to say, do you have or would you like to see more, to have more services sort of being brought closer to university students with the amount of challenges that you outlined earlier on? Are there services, reaching you on HIV and AIDS? Are there engagements about key populations? Do you also have engagements about, human trafficking and the dangers?
Thank you so much, Spesihle. So at the university, we do have services whereby we are usually called into a setup where there'll be a conference of some sort, and the key topic would be HIV. But the truth of the matter is, for the longest time, we have been taught about HIV, and I've heard about HIV ever since I was a kid, such that it's now something that's looming in the background. a majority of us have tend to ignore the impact like the seriousness of HIV. So I feel like if more awareness can be raised in more youth engaging programs, good team, but let's say for let engage and let it interesting instead of having the talks almost every after 3 months. Look, HIV, and it's not really entertaining enough. It's a matter of nalaba. So that is what happens in Vasi.
Like we know about it, what's new?
Exactly, because sugela and just HIV. But then I feel like we could also work on bringing the awareness on human trafficking, because all we know is that it's there, but we don't really mind, because after all, we're here for education, but it's something that's happening, and I feel like more light should be shed on the issue of human trafficking. Let's go.
Okay. They'll be trafficked. It's almost like we are the wise ones. Thank you very much, Andisa, for enlightening us with that. We are also inviting our virtual audiences to actually share their questions and comments, on the comments section there on the virtual platforms. And we'll ask Sia over there and, his co-host to actually maybe go through some of those when the time comes. But we are also expecting to engage with members of our audience right here at the MTN Bushfire Bring Your Fire Zone live dialogues as they continue today. Let us speak, Mnguni. I did give you a homework to say, what is the difference between human trafficking and, migration voluntarily? I'm looking for better opportunities. And while migrating, am I susceptible to actually being, trafficked? Have you seen any incidents of that sort?
Okay, thank you, Pesile. Brilliant question. Initially, I said I come from the Prevention of People Trafficking and People Smuggling Secretariat. The smuggling part touches the issue you just spoke about, the migration. And once again, I'll quickly give you a brief definition of what migrant smuggling or people trafficking is. It essentially is any person who arranges the illegal entry of somebody knowingly or recklessly not paying to attention whether that person is legally the right to cross over that border. That act is considered as migrant smuggling or people smuggling, which is a crime. So usually most people, when before they end up being, I'll take your word and say survivors of human trafficking, or before they are in the situation whereby they're being exploited, they usually get smuggled into the country. Okay. So it's two different crimes, if I can put it that way. For migrant smuggling, our legislation says you can go to, you can get a conviction of years not exceeding 18 years in prison for smuggling, assisting somebody to cross over illegally. For instance, the informal border crossings or rather the illegal ways, the routes that people use to cross in and out of the countries. Yeah. Though you might just say, for instance, indlela ilapha, you've assisted. Technically that is a crime. Yeah. Smuggling is a crime against the state. Human trafficking is a crime against the individual. But both are prosecuted by the state. Yeah. Most people, especially before they're being trafficked, before they're exploited, usually are smuggled. However, it's not to say that all victims of human trafficking are from a foreign land. Yeah. Human trafficking can happen within our country. Totally. Somebody from Lavomisa can come and be exploited in Baban, Swazi to Swazi.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. The issue of child labor. Now, I'm actually prompted to say when it happens locally, because we know that in most instances it happens across borders. But when it happens locally, we have relatives in the country. When if my mother is Mkatra, then you're my mzala. So we become cousins. So the issue of abduction. How do we draw the line? How can you tell and how can you prevent yourself? What are the telltale signs to say, hi umzala, this is legit, but hi umzala, angiboni kahle ngathi sengiyosetshenziswa lokunye.
Okay. Thank you for your question. Perfect example. It's up to us to just do the right thing. I will draw to the issues of HIV and AIDS. Through the pandemic, we've had many child-headed households whereby the mzala issue comes in, whereby Bantaba Andi are over there, Galavomesa, Baswele, they can come here to Mbabane and they'll don't clean el albala and then I'll send them to school. And then when they come here, you have a change of mind. You're like, since you eat my food, you live under, you get my food and board.
Terms and conditions.
Yes, maybe you will not go to school, or maybe the 500 in Malangeni I said I was going to give you, I'm going to count all of that now and say, no, I want to give you 200 in Malangeni now because now you live under my house and what have you. Technically, that is
eating my food for free.
Yes, that is human trafficking. Yeah. So, Labomzala, let us not take advantage of them. It's all up to us just to do good and do right. In that instance, if
genuinely,
yes.
Yeah, let's do right by our cousins, guys. Okay, thank you very much for the insightful discussions. Thank you very much, Valemseni. Thank you, Mgudi. Thank you, Msizi and Andiswa. But the conversation is not done. I'm just thanking you on my side. Otherwise, I'm throwing it now down to our audience right here at the amphitheater who are going to engage us on some of the issues. I know they've been following. I know they've been intrigued. I know they want to ask. They are hungry for questions. I'll give it to the floor, if there's any questions. A couple of hands. Thank God those are not my questions. I have experts here. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to handle all of you. Who is helping us with the mic? Yes? Tabelo? Introduce yourself, sir, and then your question.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, sir.
My name is Motasezwe. Fortunately, our moderator asked something about the stigma and discrimination against the key populations in the communities. So my question is, are there any institutional initiatives that have been implemented particularly in the universities, because we know that the stigma exists even there in the institutions? Yeah. Thank you.
Stigma exists in the institutions. Any engagements, you will have the floor, Msizi. Maybe let's take the next one just right next to the gentleman.
Sanibonani. Igama lami ngingozivile ngokamamba sibonga. Ngicela kuyibeka njengesinfu itovakala kahle. Ngicela kucala ngekuthi ngibhekise kuhulumende wethu, sinaye representative angithi. Nakumakhada gcoka lijezi. Ngeke uliba kungitshela ukuthi kumakhada. Nginike lijezi ngigcoke. Lokukhoza kakhulu le human trafficking nalabo HIV and AIDS is because our government is not addressing the real issue. Lama funds laphumako aba misdirected. Ahambe printed imoto tihambe la ngaphandle le mali ingedi lakithi thina lesiyidingako. Printed ikipa liphinde ligcokwe ngini. Kanzi the issue is thine lesi vulnerable ema students, we are hungry. We do not have shoes. Kunemuntu logcoka isudu ya 15,000. Mina ngihluleka ukuthi sengalijezi nje la 30 rand. Le mali ayitingani kimi thine sithole lamajezi sibe baningi. asisho ukuthi abangagcoki ngoba bangihulumende abagcoke fine but akubukeke lokuthi sowugcoke invol engaka wena kodwa kukhona lohledi lapha lode at all hulumende wethu wendani lama funds amisdirectwelani timoto tigcwele tibhalwe tonke tintfo letikahle tinhle la ngaphandle phindze hamba bona bamoshe petrol futhi bafikelena bakhulume lokungayindzawo le implement konke kwahulumende akufiki la kithi thina lesikudzinga embamba
mangihola ngayigcoki lesuti ya 15
asisho ukuthi umuntu akangagcoki wakho lo mholo yes we agree but when you are the government for the people what are you doing for the people now ugcoka isuti ya 15,000 wena lo lapha phasi lo tena uthi wendani
no we hear you totally acceptable maybe let's take one last one for this round. We see you. We love the hunger for questions. Nice, yes. Over to you, young lady.
Sanmanani.
Yebo.
Ninjani.
Siyapila.
My name is Nospiwo Nwagangwenya. I have, in fact, it's a question for Ms. Velemseni and my sister over here. So the question is, Ms. Velemseni, in the music industry, we understand, Guti, our fellow colleagues at the colony, they have this passion for music. I can't even describe it. So, go music industry, yini leni yendile to educate labetago emvagwenu about how this other side takes, how dirty it is, especially when it comes to EMA contracts. We know ukuthi labanye bafe lapho. I just want to know ukuthi yini letaba lentendile for them. Ukuthi niba educate ukuthi okay, sometimes utawukhanza ukuthi they will make you sign a contract whereby you only get 20% yale mali lotobo isebenzela. Yini leni yendile, and what has the government done ukuthi ba promote music wakangwane? I'm sure bancane kakhulu who are in support of music wethu in the country. Yini lena plana kubeka nenda ukuthi stock khona lokubeka si support lo music, because if info is support abamfla abanye ubona ukuthi most people bayayithanza kwenda nalo kuyakumotivate nawe as a musician noma wena lo ufuna kuba musician ukuthi let me pursue my dreams, let me continue. Yini leni yendile. And a question ngalana, in fact it's not directed to my sister. In the country, I feel like we are good at pointing out what is the problem. What is the problem? The question is, how are we going to solve the issue of human trafficking, which is caused by vele inzabaye allowance, inzabaye yendlala at the university. We are hungry, we are suffering for real. What are we doing as a government? What is the government doing? Because we have found the cause. Nyalo, let's sort it out. That is all I have. Thank you.
Let us find solutions to the problems that we have as a country. Maybe let us take the first three for the first session, and then we'll continue for the next round. Let me start with you, Msizi. I think you heard the issue of community acceptance for key population groups.
Yeah, certainly. So I think it's the issue of the policy framework that we are trying to advocate. Advocating for policies that are deliberate in addressing issues of stigma and discrimination in the country. So I kind of mentioned advance those efforts. We have the privilege of receiving support from donors to fund some of these interventions. I know there's been a development of an SOP that addresses stigma and discrimination within healthcare facilities. I know there are structured sensitizations and training programs for police and nurses to be able to understand key population issues and try and reduce or stop stigma and discrimination within the health facilities. We are doing quite a lot in terms of these trainings in collaboration with different partners, civil society, since we are not within the government sector.
I like that there's a lot of activity going on, but are you seeing the tangible results? I think that is what the question is, to say, let us not create frameworks, policies, and strategies, but without any tangible results. Are we seeing a mindset shift in terms of acceptability for this group?
Of course, we are seeing progress, but it's not as much as we want it to be. For instance, we have seen the incidence drop from the previous SHIM study, and from the IPPSS study, we've seen the indicators drop quite drastically. So we are seeing the improvement, and we've been following the joint review, program review, TB and HIV, the Global Fund. We are seeing also indicators where we are looking at key population accessing services in healthcare facilities. We are seeing a drop in those indicators, improvement in those indicators, our population accessing services bit by bit. It is because of these efforts that are being put or being done by the consortia of organizations, civil society organizations working with government.
Okay, I can hear you're a programmer. You're always backed by data. Studies, but we like that there's something that's being done. Mnguni, yekelani kuhamba ngatimoto letibhaliwe nigcoke amasuti abo 15,000 nitibhalela ntimoto ningayi emangweni to address these issues like human trafficking. I think I will lump that one with my sister right there about reaching out as much as possible, advocacy, reaching to university students and the masses.
Thank you for bringing me back to answer. I'll start off with the issue of, I actually thought of wearing a golf shirt today, but but out of respect to the audience, I wore a suit.
Your suit is not 15,000. Yeah, just put it out there, the disclaimer. Yours is 8.
To answer Sissy over there, what are we doing? We do the multi-sectoral approach with the interagency task force and development partners. I think it would be unfair for me not to mention the role of the United Nations, particularly the International Organization for Migration. They have partnered with us over the last couple of years, and we have gone out to communities, which I would call meaningful sensitization and campaigns, whereby we didn't just focus on the Manzini-Mbabane corridors. We went out to the outskirts, places that I had never even heard of myself, that are in Eswatini. We have had radio programs. We try, for instance, at the International Trade Fair to be there, to be present. We are present here. All we can do is just keep plugging away, and hopefully the message gets there to some people, because like you say, once somebody is desperate, no matter what you say, some of them, they will carry on, do what they think will work for them. But all we can do as a country is try push the message. If we do happen to get a victim of human trafficking, try to provide their the safe spaces and their basic needs, and connect with them back home and try to get them home.
Yeah.
As best we can.
Yeah. Okay, I like that response. Velemseni, our time is running out, but the youth wants to know, what are you doing? I know that you're a music teacher. How else can you use your music teacher voice, to actually get to budding, upcoming artists, teach them about the industry, the dangers that are there, the beauty, of course it's beautiful, but what is dangerous about it?
Thank you, and thank you. I think as an industry we're doing well in terms of sharing the information that we have gathered. But I think it is important for me to say that in the global perspective, our industry is quite young. So also the generation of artists the different generations of artists that we've seen so far, I think everybody is still learning at a similar pace and trying to figure things out. So the best resource is available to all of us. It's the age of information. I think with that in mind, the internet has leveled the playing field for everybody in terms of access to information. So I do want to implore our young artists to do your homework. The information won't fall from the sky, unfortunately, but it is in your phone, in your devices. Everything is available to you. And once again, let me reiterate the community building, make relationships, work with people that you establish a sense of trust with so that you can be in safe hands, reliable hands, and the work that you put out together, you also know and trust the quality and the alignment in terms of where you want to go with it.
Okay. My floor manager, allow me to take just one question, sir. Were you first? You. The lady is toying. She was first. Okay, ladies first. Mic. Just my last 2 minutes. I want to use my last 2 minutes very wisely.
Perhaps as we are going to, please, you may raise your hand again.
She's in the front.
Oh,
right
the front.
there.
Perhaps
Yes.
as I'm walking to her, it is worth noting that after this Q&A session, we'll then give away 1 or rather 2 tickets to the MTN Bushfire Festival. So you might want to stay with us for a minute or 2.
Good day, everyone.
Hello.
My name is Ngobile Shoulder. I'm a student at Gwaluseni. When it comes to human trafficking, I have a lot of foreign friends. So how can they be helped? Because one, they're not from this country, but they came here due to their own reasons and their families' reasons. So when they are faced with an incident of human trafficking, how can they be helped?
Okay, are they students or just?
Just generally.
Okay, just living in the country. Thank you for that question, sir. Behind you.
Thank you, Sanbonani.
Yebo Buti.
And
Good.
thank you for this opportunity, especially you and all you guys there. You are doing a wonderful job. Willem Sani, I'm with my guy here. He's an artist. Please take care of him. And I would like to double click on goal number 3. I think we are unpacking the SDGs. It is unfortunate that road safety is not included. I see here the inclusion, and all of these things go via the road. And sometimes trafficking happens when people get lifts and they never come back home. And there is active mobility for well-being, and people are obese because they don't walk. We are a road safety NGO, the first civil society dealing with road safety, and we would like to be included because the goals are interconnected. From goal number 1, for example, if you walk, it's free. Petrol is expensive, and you exercise, you get benefits, and global warming, it mitigates the climate change. So we are promoting walking and cycling to help, and if you walk, you can never be trafficked. For example, sometimes you stop for someone. I even learned that I don't stop for someone if it doesn't stop me for a lift.
Okay. So what is your question, Goje?
It's a contribution.
Okay.
That we wish that you also include road safety.
Okay.
It is SDGs because it is most businesses run through road transportation, and even if you go to access these services that we're talking about, HIV and AIDS, and then now we have accepted road death as normal because we don't want people to die from AIDS or maybe from other diseases, but we neglect the road crashes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Goje. Usi, walking is free, and people love getting lifts, and yet they're exposing themselves, to human trafficking. Maybe to just amplify that one, my sister, that the young lady there spoke about, Mnguni, is the issue of, where can we go? To point us to somewhere. Do we have, service centers or anywhere where we can get help? I know that other entities have toll-free lines, for a certain area. Do we have anything that sort where we can actually just say, I need information?
Thank you. I'll start off by saying the normal police, they are part of the interagency task force. We do sensitization with them. Information can be sourced from them. That is, I'm trying to give you, whereby there's over a lot of police stations around whereby you can get information. You can even come to our office at the Prime Minister's office, but that's a bit far-fetched for somebody who's maybe as a student. So the ordinary police. But for what you just said now, I didn't quite get the gist. Luckily, I came here with a colleague of mine whose job is specifically to hear out inquiries or queries just like yours, she works at our report center. I think maybe after the session you can talk to her and articulate the issue you were talking about with regards to your friends. And with road transportation, we also work with the public transporters in terms of fighting human trafficking. We once had a campaign, I think it was last year or the year before, with the Roman Catholic Church in Manzini, targeting commuters who use public transport. They are part of the wider network of sectors that we work with in trying to fight human trafficking, because that's where the migration starts. I remember I said recruitment, transportation, exploitation. So the transportation part, that's where the roads come in. So, but it'd be great to even engage more and see how we can expand on that platform.
Okay, I like that. We will continue the conversation in our from our audience, but I just want to cross over because I hear that our live broadcast on TV is almost coming to an end. Sia, Tabelo, do you have any maybe questions from our online audience, from our virtual?
Not quite. Thank you. That was a very informative and insightful discussion, Ms. Ngonyane. Well, the conversation does not end here. It will continue virtually on our social media platforms at UN in Eswatini, as well as MTN Bushfire Festival. You know, Tabelo, this was a beautiful way to bring our fire, as our call to action says, and especially because we are looking at a dynamic and a very inclusive response towards achieving our SDG goals before 2030, which is only 6 years from now. But the young people definitely brought their burning passion and burning questions. And I can tell for real that we are also ready for the summit of the future. What do you think?
I think we are not done, because this stream will be running for an extra 30 minutes, because not all the questions were, of course, answered. And there are some young people burning, of course, to ask questions here, which you just said. But for now, we will be closing off the broadcast, which is on Eswatini TV, and continuing with the YouTube streaming and, of course, Facebook. Our panelists are still bringing their fire, and 30 minutes won't burn them out, surely. We will be hearing from them shortly and running the competition, of course, on the live stream. So, yes, our youth, 18 to 35, unfortunately, but youth and Dala can stay on one side for, of course, the competition. But from this live dialogues here, I think we should close it off, and we will be seeing them at 2, of course.
Definitely. So, ladies and gentlemen, in case you missed this one, you can still join us after lunch. 2:30 p.m., we are still here bringing our fire. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Sia and Tabelo, our beautiful host, TV. And of course, we continue with our virtual audiences right there on YouTube, on the MTN Bushfire platform, as well as Eswatini, TV, YouTube platforms. We will continue to take questions and submissions from our audience right here at the amphitheater as part of the sidelines, or pre-dialogues for the MTN Bushfire Festival, which takes place, of course, next weekend. We are all bringing our fire to the bushfire. So we continue on our virtual platforms, and we are still taking questions from the floor. We have a hand. Sia, where are you with your mic? Who has been burning the most? You have, sir. Okay. Oh, but wait.
I'm from Eswatini Corruption Watch.
Okay.
It's an organization that looks into creating awareness with the issues of corruption in the kingdom.
Nice.
So my question is, ngicala ngibude Mr. Mkhatshwa langathi relevant naye ngoba sisebenzisana ngezinto zabantu corruption lo human trafficking.
Yeah.
Lokuthi Mr. Mkhatshwa yes nguvile uthinzile ukuthi you go to those areas, but lengiva kakhulu ngathi siyacela man, because most young people, especially le makhaya, they are not aware about nokuthi yini lo. So how best can our government look into doing this thing into the 60 how many, 59, yes, 60. Like going to these communities, reaching, sensitizing young people, for instance, close to South Africa, so helping us to not like but how best can our government create a program where it's like a year program, theater. Si travelile masadi sakhuluma sifunzisile vele na improve because ngisaba ukuthi sidawuthini yes our young people are complaining the ones that complain but I usually say I don't complain about something need a solution. I raise the complaint ngathi okay our government sicela ukuthi mayinihamba hambe man last week ngathi sifunzisile malanga na improve this is big data. That's my question for my colleague. Ngibuye ngicela kubuta mna yethu lapha
key populations.
Key populations, yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
How best can we partner with the legislature or even the government, the parliament and all that, in terms of the bill hearing? Could see let these things be public because LGBTQ because of those things. How best? Yes. How best can because there's this debate I think boyibona His Excellency Museveni from Uganda. So human rights, but really sing Maswati is a Christian state. So how best can we make sure that our government is able to hold such public hearings, could discuss, go input before you influence the policy because you'll take the money influencing the money.
And bring results.
So thank you. So as a sources, let's not because we are the future leaders, definitely that's guaranteed. Yeah. So look, because we don't influence the policy, we don't influence the bill making, don't even the hearings. I see parliament not really, but because we are not in the table as young people and we don't follow the protocol. I was luckily with the protocol of the country, trying to partner with the government in this state of corruption because very sensitive subject. But ngeke ngifike lapha ngithi hayi ni corrupt nini uzothi lo munye mfana siyabonga ukuthi because nini ayilandzele protocol yala kangwane niyathi complain on social media but labantu abadzala labemajobo for instance aniba engage with respect and the honor that they deserve mkhulu baba uyathi kunendvule kanje. Thank you so much. I can continue, but because of time, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that input. Of course, they will respond. Taking just one last one for this round. My sister, you are raising so high. Were you there the whole time? I've been seeing this gentleman. It's fine because you're a lady.
Thank you. Sorry, gentlemen. I've been listening from like the sidelines.
Okay.
And my concern is when we're talking about human trafficking in Eswatini, what is the government doing or what are we doing as community to raise awareness about these issues? Because the perception is, I'm an expat, so the perception for me is Eswatini is a safe space. I was even telling other people, you get to a point where you can even forget your phone on top of your car and you come back and it's still there. So the perception is Eswatini is a safe place until it's not. So what messaging are we giving to our young people? What messaging are we giving to our university students? Like we're talking about how hunger is the driving, human trafficking and abuse. What is it that we're doing to give awareness to this? Is it on the news? Is it on the paper? Are we going into community? Are we talking about it? These are the conversations we're supposed to be having, raising more awareness, because as much as we say, what are we doing to stop the perpetrator, we can never entirely eradicate perpetrators. They will always be there. But how are we protecting ourselves as young people, as young women, and as young men? Thank you.
Okay. I'll take all of those as submissions. Do you hear Mgoniguti? The issue is around spreading awareness as much as possible. My brother spoke about visiting Old Tinkundla. The young lady is speaking about awareness raising. So maybe, I know you have something to say, but I'll take somebody else because we can take it as a point. Yes, sir?
Thank you so much, moderator. My name is Bonko Sindlamandla. Mine will be towards Msizi and Andiswa. Maybe in terms of, based on their respective communities, how will partnerships be important in terms of having department partnering, EU agencies partnering, and CSOs partnering in relation to dealing with socio-economic challenges toward ensuring that we fight the issue of HIV and AIDS, both from key population and also issues of human trafficking, because when now we talk about issues of socio-economic challenges being at the driving force and also exposing everyone at risk towards being affected by these issues. You talk about HIV, we will teach how many times students about issues, the importance of being safe on issues of HIV, but if they are hungry and one says, I can give you more money if you do unprotected sex, then that student will just go unprotected because I'm addressing the hunger.
Of course.
So how is it important, the aspect of partnerships on, say, those who are responsible on the welfare aspect being part and parcel and understanding how that it's impacting in eradicating these social issues. Thank you.
Of course, because they are interrelated. Msizi, let me give this opportunity to you. We heard, the questions that you received.
All right, thank you
In
so
the
much,
interest of time.
Sihle. To our questions, how can we best engage the government to work on issues of key population? I think it's platforms such as these ones that enable us to have the discussion started. We are receiving a lot of support from our international family, the UN family, PEPFAR, and also other donors, including the Global Fund, to start this conversation. We're doing a lot of work in terms of advocacy, information dissemination about the issues that key population are facing. And we're trying to paint a picture that shows the correlation between the strong policy environment or a policy environment that bans or that does not enable the thriving of key and vulnerable population biobehavioral characteristics to that which is more relaxed. We are seeing that in countries that have a ban on key population biobehavioral characteristics, HIV incidence is quite high. And those that have very relaxed legislation and where the environment is more enabling, we are seeing low incidence of HIV. So we are trying to have the government understand this. We, of course, are partnering with the government in terms of the different ministries. Your Ministry of Health are trying to discuss the agenda within so that we can inform or influence policy. We're also working with the Human Rights Commission to try and support us in terms of painting the picture or making our point heard to our policymakers. We are also working in the different communities where we are engaging a grassroots organization. We are engaging community gatekeepers, Chief, to make them understand about the issues that the key population are facing in relations to HIV, gender-based violence, stigma and discrimination, and all the like. Yeah. So what we want with these policies, we want them to be so much involving and protective to the different communities. We're talking about people that are also facing discrimination and stigmatization based on their socioeconomic status. We are also talking about people living with HIV and also other people that are being marginalized or left out within the discussion. So I think when we start talking the discussions in platforms like these ones and also in the rural areas, or should I say at the grassroots level, then it's easy then for the government to adopt into the policy framework.
Of course, thank you so much. Antiswa, would you like to say anything?
Well, I'll be very brief, seeing the time.
Partnerships, yeah.
But I believe that partnerships would be of great help, and I'm very glad Gutsi Sinemumpuaga Hulmende amongst us, because the issue of allowance is quite a very sensitive subject that I don't want to tap into. But I believe if we can get people from Boki Health, artists, like coming to school to educate us more on this world we're living in, to limit the stigmatization, key population. So I believe if bangeda, but of course as students, silambile, so there has to be an incentive after. So, yeah.
There has to be an incentive after, because they say you cannot reason with a hungry man. Do you know that? You cannot reason with a hungry man. So if you're coming to engage me, make sure that I'm not hungry. I'm well fed. Did you want to say anything, Mguni? I know that you were just taking submissions, of course, about, that gives us an opportunity to ask more questions. Did we have any other hands? Hey? Okay. Question?
Good afternoon, or good morning, everyone. My name is Tabelo Dlamini, and I am asking this question directed to the young lady right there, Andisa, I believe.
Yeah.
How does a university run parallel to not one, not two, not three, maybe more places of hardcore entertainment? I think that puts students at risk of being, trafficked. And of course, if ntoya yenza wenye bumnanzi, which is right opposite, umuntu naseka the relationship becomes transactional. They'll obviously expect something from me at the end of the night. And if I say no, that could lead to me being trafficked. Or if I do say yes, because it can lead to an issue where when we do have sexual intercourse, I do then attract maybe HIV and AIDS. And of course, the issue of human trafficking. Nine as students, because umtali nageta emvas maybe to check on their child. Abone kuna 3 wetinzawo of entertainment angicabanga ukuthi uyajabula because they are at risk of being trafficked and of course of attracting HIV and AIDS. Nenda njani qosha leti tinzawo leti.
Eish, yeah. I get where you're coming from. I get where you're coming from, but I wonder if students really want to chase away these places. Which can be very instrumental, with coping with university life. Andy, so what can you say? You have so many entertainment sports. Do you know, like right opposite the University of Eswatini? Etiabuya lapa, guys. Gumnandi lapa, and there's traffic for days lapa. Every time there's cars. How is that situation for you? Does it make things better for you in terms of coping with university life, or does it make things worse?
The truth of the matter is, singazama ngoba ngayini, but people will always prefer a groove yangephandle. We sometimes have mabash langekhathi esikoleni, but the attendance ayibi iningangago. But makuthiwa phuma ligede kune groove langephandle, students will always prefer that. And good info like ngiva ngathi good info lesingayenda, and in all honesty letinzawo tiyasisita shem.
Tabelo, you heard that? Groove is nice. Okay, Andy, continue.
Tiyasisita because go groove langekhathi esikolweni. For instance, nje kuvamise kuba se multi-purpose hall. Uya groove, utsima groove, ukhumbule ukuthi next week ngidaba ngibhala exam la. Kanti mawungalenge phandle ukuthi exam lo toyibhala khona, and it helps us relieve the stresslessness osala ngekhathi. So it's best with stress.
Plus the close proximity, you will not need transport. It's just here. The group is here. It's coming to meet you halfway. Do we have any more submissions? Otherwise, we will have to wrap up the session. Let me give the lady at the back, and then I'll come back to you, sir, in the front.
Hello, Kamalami Linda. Talking about like close proximity alama entertainment areas. Bendan banfana basemfasi ku manage imali because nakuphume allowance uyate kone nigcwele uyate khaya nigcwele liye ngokunazo thing lavula masango le that place you know ngiphume allowance and then next week sithi imali bendani bona ukuthi le mali bayimanage kangcono ukuthi bangadikhanzi sebenta tindlu ngekusibafuna imali but banikiwe imali. Do they manage the money or they finish the money on other things and then they say hole imali incane? Do they manage the money yini size sifike la kuthi khona incane le mali?
Yeah, financial literacy must come in there. So good. The gentleman just in front of you, this one here. See ya, this one, yes.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. My name is Tobeka Gunene.
Okay.
So my question is directed to Mr. Mkachwa from the Ministry of from the Prime Minister's Office on Human Trafficking. So basically, seeing the way that the world is changing, you know, we are in a fast-paced environment, and just yesterday we were talking about employability. So I'm asking if you've got any anything in place for in case you want to validate probably for employment overseas or somewhere else, or is there a place or one-stop centers that you have that you can actually validate if something is actually a thing? Is it legit? And if you do or if you don't, how fast or how is it going to be effective in terms of the response? Because, you know, I'll be so excited about going to the UK and I'll be waiting for a response, because I think that's what we should look on. We really acknowledge the fact that you have police, you do campaigns there and there, but then for someone who's here and for someone who's actually placed there in Big Bend, in Nganweni, how are they actually going to get? Are we going to get the same response besides having the radio programs and everything? Do you have something that is digitalized, toll-free lines, something that you can talk to validate and check if the websites that you have, because even if you can go on Facebook right now, you'll find that you want to study in India, you want to study somewhere else. So we're seeing opportunities, you know, we want to actually grow. So that's my question. Thank you.
I agree with you. Let's take the last one and then we will have Mr. Mkachwa respond. There are so many adverts from legit advertising spaces. You know, the papers will carry adverts about there are nurses needed in the UK, there are teachers needed in Taiwan. Have you seen those adverts? Yeah. How do you validate if that is actually true? We've seen others post on social media that I'm in Taiwan, I'm a teacher, I was teaching Gundabne Zimbisi, but now here I am in Taipei, you know, through an advert in the paper. But, you know, others cannot be as legitimate. My brother? Where's the mic here? This brother, yeah, it's just right next to Mr. Gnene. Yes, sir.
Hi, everyone. My name is Makawe.
Yes,
I'm a student at the University of Eswatini.
Okay.
Mine goes to Babemgoni, and it's mainly about capacity building for, let's say, labor exploitation. Because we get jobs, we get jobs, you know, my piece jobs, or get jobs like developing, whereby we're employed by the Indians and other shops that do employ us. We Stikanza's assessment, lapokona, we take whatever deal that's on the table, regardless of Gutsi, is it
payment in return, yeah.
And plus, is it actually logu vumelwa nguhulumende yini ngokuthi kumele ngibhadalwe so much for so many hours, as well as working conditions.
Okay.
Personally, I think there's a key population which is school leavers from high school to varsity.
The transition, yeah.
Yes. So if there could be my efforts lendiwa ngokuthi manesifundziswe lana masiphuma nje esikolweni ka form 5 ngokuthi okay, wena as a Form 5 graduate, wena kumele wati nawo about labor laws of the country, so that utothi mangabuya mtfola lo msebenzi le Shoprite, utokhona ukuthi ukhona negotiate something that is for you before you engage nabo Simak as well as other bodies lakhona.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. Actually spot on. On the issue of exploitation, Mnguni, I think that question is coming up a lot. We would say, how do you draw the line? And do you even have programs, you know, for school leavers? Or even are you planning, or even are you actually intrigued to actually take on those?
Thank you, specifically. Thank you to the audience for your point and questions. I'll be very, very quick. I'll start off with the question Baba spoke of there. Yes, when you spoke of you spoke of corruption.
The job adverts. Which?
You spoke about corruption.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'll term it and say organized crime. You asked about us going to Tinkundlas and what have you.
Oh, yes.
It'll go back to the issue of what Putu was saying here. Resources, resources, resources. As government will never ever have enough resources to do absolutely everything at once. It's all about trying to spread it out as best as we can with the assistance of other stakeholders, such as the United Nations. But even then, they will never have enough resources to do everything at once. So what I do pick up from what you were saying, though, is the issue of sensitization, which will reach everybody pretty much at the same time and is cost effective, which in this instance I think is radio, because it can reach absolutely all areas of the country. We had a radio program as the Secretariat, and your point just brought to my attention that we need to go back to radio to try close the gap, because we might do a community this year. Those people have moved, have gotten a job, there's new people living there. So it'll be, so I'll take your point, and we do need to go back to radio. That is what I'm picking up from quite a few of your questions, of your points. And then Cece at the back, she spoke about safe spaces. Let me put it this way. So long as there's free movement of people, as long as people are migrating, there will always be the risk of migrant smuggling and in turn human trafficking. So my personal motto is, it's our job in fighting human trafficking is to make it as difficult as possible for it to happen. We might not stop it completely so long as there's free movement of people, but is to make it as difficult as possible for it to happen, be it the laws, be it the sensitization and capacity building for students and what have you. And then
the issue of job adverts.
Job validation, yes, that was a good question from Puti over there. He's raising a question that it is also, which is I think is a great point, which should be noted to the students as well. He raised an issue of proactiveness from you, because the person who got the job is the one that's going to go ask, is this legitimate? And we encourage people to do that. And yes, but we do help verify and job opportunities. We've had that people come up and ask, and we've verified. We work with the Ministry of Labor and various stakeholders in verifying job opportunities, because even churches, for instance, there's people who, I've had a call whereby a parent had a child going to Nigeria for some church revival and what have you, and the parent was extremely worried. And we did our best to verify if this thing is pure legitimate. And we verified as best we can. This person went, and they came back. And we checked on them, we came back, everything went well. So yes, please, I encourage everybody to be proactive as well. You know, if there's a job opening somewhere, go ask the police. They'll connect you to us. Ministry of Labor, they will help. They will contact us. They will help you verify, be the scholarship, be the job, be whatever. And then the last question, Puti, you spoke about capacity building. Oh, labor exploitation. Yeah. Labor exploitation is part of what happens to a trafficked victim. However, not all labor exploitation is human trafficking. Yeah. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. So you do have the Ministry of Labor, which you can talk to with regards to, you spoke about minimum pay, what is the gazette for that? There is a labor policy, if I'm not mistaken, that talks, for instance, a child between this age and that age is only allowed to work these type of jobs for a certain number of hours and so on. And even there, I encourage you to be proactive as well, because at the end of the day, we can't do everything ourselves. We need you as well to assist us And I really love what Buti said there about, because that was a proactive initiative of going and asking, is this thing legit, rather than having to fetch you in a foreign country somewhere. I don't want to say any country. It's much, prevention is better than cure.
Yeah, if indeed you will find them alive in a foreign country. Thank you so much, Mnguni, for those, insightful responses. Do we have just one last burning one? I want to wrap up. My brother, you want to come in for the second time? Let me scan the room first if there's no one who wants to speak for the first time. Nobody? Going once, twice? Done. Okay, my brother here, just one last one. I'm left with 5 minutes. I'll give you the chance. Yes.
Thank you so much. Mine is actually not a question. I'm trying to help Andiswa answer Tebelo's question, because I'm from the Luyengo campus under the Student Affairs. We actually have a problem. Things out there ukuthi chaza tiyohlala tikhona. And umuntu ukuthi wendani kuba i-choice yakhe, because umntali makakususa ekhaya kise esikolweni uthini utsomdala. Fortunately for us sinebatali nakhona le nyuvesi. Bo under counseling nje eliyengo we have ADSA lo phinze abe is our counsel. And we have my programs like my PCEs, and we have my mentors around. So what happens under a mentorship is we will tell you ukuthi kuze uphile la nyuvesi ukhone uqeda usaphilile ungumcemane kufuna wende ini angeke sikutshele ukuthi ungendi ini because umdala. Yes, so mawufika wena sitakunika leyo guidance, because mentorship is like holding a person ngesandla umkhombe ukuthi lana ungangena lana ungangena, but ngeke ukhombe leminyango le kumele ungayingena. So i-choice yakho wena ukuthi ngiyayithola leminyango le kumele ngingayingeni, because kuliqiniso ukuthi most of my students lesinawo aqala most imikhuba enyuvesi. Yes, about roughly 90% of us kule study lesike sazama kusenda baqala lapha nokhanze ukuthi umuntu uyasho yena ukuthi hayi akusiki ukuthi mina benje lokhu i peer pressure, like Andiswa said ukuthi kuba i peer pressure ukhanze ukuthi lo munye akabhekeleki ekhaya. So ubona ngathi angihamba nalamajita lawa batangithuma bathi angihambe ngiyothenga nangibuya ngeke bayifunele shintshe. So ngidaba grand imnendlini, so kuba kanjalo bathi ngesingisi you can take a horse to the river,
but you cannot force it to drink. Thank you, my brother. That is powerful. Thank you so much. To our panelists, thank you so much. I think we've said enough. I think we've exhausted all our thoughts. Thank you so much for bringing your thought processes and your expertise in the different fields. Ladies and gentlemen, our virtual viewers, thank you so much for joining us for this virtual live stream, where we are actually, having pre-dialogues, courtesy of the United Nations family, pre-bushfire dialogues until we get to bushfire next week. Otherwise, from myself, Sipesihle Nkwanyana, it's been a pleasure, conversing with you about cross-cutting challenges, especially when we speak HIV and AIDS, when we speak key population groups in the country, as well as human trafficking. I hope you have been empowered with the amount of information that we have given you here today. Otherwise, it's kudos and goodbye.
Oh, well, and come on, guys. I think you can do better than that. I think you can do better than that.